Welcome to Eventual, your OG prediction market podcast. My name's Alex Keeney, and I'm going to be holding it down here with some of the biggest names in trading, talking about all of the largest news stories. On today's show, we've got a peace deal in Iran, but will Trump's memorandum of understanding amount to much? Then our London bureau reports in about a small election that could cause Keir Starmer's downfall. William Kajani joining for that. And then finally, the World Cup is here. It's awesome. And Anthony Dabbundo from The Ringer, he's a soccer writer, is going to be joining us to talk about it and how Trump's fingerprints might find their way onto the tournament before it's done. Now, fam, remember, we're a community here, a community of traders, and we're here to support you with great information and good guests. But please support us back too. It's actually really easy. Just follow Eventual on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your shows. Just follow Eventual, leave a review. It makes a huge difference for us to get started. Let me tell you about Polymarket. They are back in the United States, finally. Polymarket has a brand new US app, and they'll give you a $20 bonus to sign up for it. So visit polymarket.us and download their brand new app for American users. We love Polymarket here at Eventual. Their data powers all of our shows, and they just really understand traders and what gets them excited. So check out Polymarket's new US app at polymarket.us. Thank you. Eventual covers prediction markets for informational purposes only. Nothing here constitutes financial advice, investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any position. Authors and guests may hold positions in markets discussed, and they may change them without notice. Be safe out there, fam. Do your own research.
Higher performance and faster and more reliable. Nothing else has been implemented in a way that nothing else will ever know.
All right, fam, rejoining us is one of our favorite oracles here at Eventual, and it's, spoiler alert, it's his birthday too. Doug Campbell, you are, I'm going to repeat your bio. Can you bear to have your bio repeated by me?
Go for it. Yeah, do it.
All right. PhD economist. That's pretty cool. Almost $15 million of traded volume, over $1 million in profits. Longtime innovator in the space and a friend on his birthday. How are you doing, man?
Doing well. Just got back from Manifest this past weekend, so everything is great. Making a lot of money.
You catch up with the boys there. I feel like there aren't girls at Manifest. We need more of them in this business.
There's certainly not a lot. It was interesting to meet a bunch of prominent traders for the first time that I just knew from online. And so one thing that's kind of interesting, a lot of good traders in prediction markets tend to be either Asian males or Jewish white males. Have not met a lot of female traders in person.
Not a lot of Douglas Campbells either, by your account.
No.
I have found that meeting traders, I think it's always a good idea to throw a post up on Twitter when you're in a new town. Hey, are there any traders in town? And it's almost like dating on Bumble or Hinge or something like that, where it can be very surprising who you vibe with and who you don't, but it's, I think, always rewarding.
Yeah. The other thing that's interesting is I think the average age is probably like 22 or something.
That's changed.
Yeah.
That's changed. Maybe that's the Robin Hood effect.
Right.
All right, so I was thinking for our purposes here, we could just rip through a few stories that are on everyone's mind, and then we can get to some of the good interviews we've got coming up on this show. So, Doug, on my punch list, I've got Iran nuclear deal. That seems like it's been your sort of signature betting bonanza. And maybe put a little bow on the primaries Tuesday. I feel like you're going to tell me we have to add one kind of big thing to the agenda. Do you want to hit me over the head with
the World Cup started. I've caught World Cup fever. I didn't attend the opening match just because I went to Manifest, but the U.S. started strong. Can't wait to talk about it. Maybe in the next episode. Stay tuned so we can talk World Cup.
and stay tuned in this episode. Anthony Dabbundo from The Ringer is going to join, and he is one of their soccer writers. So we'll start that coverage vertical. And what do we do? Do we drink like Budweiser, nice domestic brew to celebrate the Team USA, or is there like a ritual that we need to incorporate here?
I think beer does a good job. Some Coors Light, maybe.
Silver bullet. All right, so the first thing we got to get through is we got to talk about this Iran peace deal, or sort of pseudo peace deal that just came through, according to Trump. So let me quote. I'm going to quote a critical source that maybe is surprising, which is Fox News. So Megan Phillips at Fox News writes, quote, "Trump's Iran agreement raises basic questions. Is it actually a deal?" So she goes on to say, President Donald Trump has hailed the newly signed Iran MOU as a breakthrough that normalizes relations between the two countries after months of fighting. But by the White House's own account, the agreement settles few of the issues that dominated months of negotiations, leaving sanctions relief, frozen assets, and Iran's nuclear program for a new round of talks. So Trump says he has a deal. The text maybe doesn't make that argument very clearly, but I think the question that we're asking here, and I see $5 million of activity on Polymarket about, is like what's in the deal and what's out of the deal when all is said and done, when it's negotiated at the end of the day. So are you in this market? Do you have your eye on anywhere in prediction market world, or do you have your eye on like the what's in, what's out?
I am in a few of these markets. I think the peace deal market, it should resolve today. There was a big UMA dispute on it. There's was a sanctions market. Are there sanctions relief in this deal? There is. There is a market on whether there are transit fees in the Strait of Hormuz in this deal. And the answer is that probably yes, there is. But I think we'll never get the Trump administration to admit this.
Okay, this is an interesting take.
So there's some text in the deal. Yeah, there's some text in the deal that specifies that Iran will be allowed to administer Hormuz, and it's not specified what this means. Iran says that this will include some kind of administrative or environmental fee. You know, you got to save the turtles. And the Trump administration says, absolutely, there are no tolls whatsoever. And there will not be tolls. It'll be some kind of transit fee.
All right.
Administrative fee.
So hold on. Let's
But anyway, this market.
Let's zoom out big picture. So I think that like the prominent betting markets. So like you've identified one of them, and we'll put the Polymarket kind of scoreboard up here. So you've identified one of them, which is, will there be transit fees in the Strait of Hormuz? That would be a huge humiliation for Trump if there were. There's another market. Will the United States unfreeze Iranian assets? That is in the 80 to 90% range. So the market seems pretty confident that's going to happen. There is a market on whether or not Trump is going to announce a troop withdrawal. That is getting towards 70%. Your transit fees is like a huge underdog if you think that that's going to hit. And then we have a market that we've been talking about for a while, which is, will Iran agree to stop enriching uranium? So it sounds like you think Trump is basically going to get his ass kicked up and down the field here, and you have like a pretty like are you actually thinking of like taking this 10-1 shot that that the mullahs do actually get to continue to charge transit fees?
I would, but not in the market that I've seen. I think eventually there will be some kind of fees. But by the end of the month, I think this market might require, especially if you're looking at the Trump agrees to it, I think Trump will die before he admits that he's allowed them to do this. And so I don't see that happening. So I think this one will resolve no, but ultimately it seems likely that they will have some kind of fees. I could be wrong on that. Maybe, the reporting has been all over the place on this issue. In terms of the unfreezing of assets, I believe that one is going to go yes. I think there's already been some reporting. I also think, sanctions relief happened. What else do we have here? The agreed enriched uranium. It's going to be too soon. The market is very bearish that there's ever going to be a nuclear agreement here. I'm fairly bullish. I have some later shares. I think it'll take the full 60 days because, when has Iran and the U.S. ever negotiated
Right.
anything quickly, and the answer is
Right.
never.
I feel like one of the things that's very hard with these diplomatic markets is like the resolution criteria are kind of janky too. And
Yeah.
like I was reading the rules on Polymarket, for example, and it wasn't clear to me that if Iran agreed to stop enriching uranium for 15 or 20 years or whatever it is that Trump and Marco Rubio have been saying, um, I wasn't sure that it would satisfy that market. Like that might actually ring up as a no, which I'm thinking like maybe that's the reason why the market is so bearish is that the rules themselves are a little unclear on what would trigger this. Like,
Oh, absolutely. I think with that market, it's a little bit tricky because the language of the memorandum said that something like pending a final agreement, Iran agrees not to change the status quo or to enrich uranium. And so, okay, what does that mean exactly? Now that Iran knows that it has Hormuz
right.
and it can, that it can take Hormuz hostage, do they really need a nuclear weapon given that that could provoke another war with Israel? They have Hormuz. Maybe they
That's
also
like
have
that's like the
Bab el-Mandeb.
Barak Ravid at Axios take is that the mullahs actually are much more chastened than the Western media actually thinks they are.
Right, right.
I
And in
think,
addition, yeah, go ahead.
like, do you think, like, I don't want to go like too deep into the annals of Iranian diplomacy, but like, I kind of think on a certain level here, like, Trump's going to go spend 60 days or however many days with JD Vance negotiating this agreement. Like, we'll have some indication of what's going to be in it, and the market prices kind of reflect, what the reporting says is going to be in it. But like, just given the weirdness of the resolution criteria, given the fact that like both sides are pretty belligerent and bellicose, like I sort of feel like no trade is the right trade in these markets unless you are like very, very, very certain or have like a very rare pricing opportunity to get involved.
Right, you might be right on that. There's a lot of ways that these markets could go no. I suppose an agreement could be delayed for various reasons, and so yeah, so it's probably never a bad bet, especially the markets that have tighter, closer deadlines to bet no. But I am bullish. I do kind of think eventually some kind of nuclear agreement will get
For sure.
be agreed to. But yeah, you just have to wonder though, like, when will it get done? And will a worry for Trump, I guess, is that this looks too much. It'll look too much like the JCPOA.
Right.
And basically, the fundamentals of the deal is that it has to, but that's the last thing Trump wants. He needs to distinguish it somehow from, it must be better than what Obama agreed to.
Right.
So that's kind
Right.
of that's the difficulty.
Right, right. Well, far be it from Trump to sell a picture that might not be totally factually accurate. But all right, so let's put a bow on it then. So it sounds sort of like where we're landing here is that we agree with what the market thinks will happen at the end of the day. Like, there will be unfrozen Iranian assets. That seems like a pretext for anything. There will be troop withdrawal, but like, again, rules cock situation there. Enrichment of uranium, maybe the market pricing is a little off there, but there's some good reasons for resolution criteria. And then the transit fees, like I guess if you want to go gold mining, the Doug Campbell pickaxe points towards transit fees, but I'm just not going to get involved in that is sort of where I'm going to land this.
Yeah, with the transit fees too, there could be kind of an uproar.
All right, so there was your somewhat apologetically deep dive in Iran. Before we get further in the show, I think we need to just sort of like recognize and salute the series of political primaries that happened this week, and we have another batch coming up next week. So this week was Georgia, and then next week we have kind of a tasty one in South Carolina. So wrap up. It's time to wrap up on Southern primaries, but I think this is sort of interesting. So the big story coming out of Georgia is that Rob Collins, Republican congressman who's famous for having a mullet, being a trucker, and posting memes, is going to advance to face Senator Jon Ossoff, who is famous for being polished, former journalist and like marginally unemployed, but like now a very successful senator. So that's going to be the Senate standoff in Georgia. And then we have Rick Jackson, who is famous for being rich, who is advancing to face former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom in the gubernatorial. Doug, this is like, how many credit cards are we going to open up and max out to bet on Jon Ossoff defeating Mike Collins? Is this sort of like the electoral opportunity of a lifetime here?
Absolutely. Max out your credit line, ask for money from your rich uncle, take out a double mortgage, second mortgage on your double trailer. You can put it all on Jon Ossoff, who just seems to be a favorite, especially of the, big city media elite.
Right.
Who write about him as if he's the second coming of Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and might be a front runner for 2028. He gets repeatedly very favorable media coverage. He's centered himself as kind of a reasonable centrist in Georgia. This is going to be a very favorable election cycle for the Democrats. I think it's a bond, a AAA rating.
Yeah. I think, look, it's like we're looking at what, like a D plus 10 cycle, buying 86-cent shares that Jon Ossoff in like a, purplish, reddish state. I think that's a pretty good deal. So I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go to like the pawn shop and like sell all my family heirlooms so I can get a little more leverage on this race.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and then more importantly, the future. Future is always the most important thing. So, do you pay attention to South Carolina ever? Is this a state that's relevant to you as a Midwesterner?
I will admit that I have not paid that close attention to it. I think it's kind of interesting that for Senate, Lindsey Graham, he's not polling particularly well. And I guess he actually only won his race narrowly in the last time around. But I also think that in South Carolina, I feel like Republicans have a very high floor,
right,
possibly low ceiling with just there's a big block of Democrats. I think the state doesn't swing very much, and so I think
let's talk about its weirdness. I mean, so I think you sort of pull Lindsey Graham's name out of the hat. It's like this state, Lindsey Graham, James Clyburn, like Nikki Haley, kind of all these like big personality politicians. And there's been this like absolute telenovela of a governor's race going on there. So it's going to go to runoff next week. We'll figure out a way to program more for this runoff because it is kind of interesting. So let's tease it a little bit here. So this like cast of characters that at one time included Nancy Mace, like the Epstein files played a role. This Nepo baby son of the current governor was like in the mix. And then like one of the guys who's moved to the runoff is like the Nepo baby son of that congressman who said, "You lie" at Obama in the State of the Union. So it's kind of weird. And in the end of the day, this is when I quote the experts. So I've got this little clip from the Post and Courier. Shout out Nick Reynolds there. So as we go to the runoff next week, quote, "In the end, the five-way race to make the runoff in South Carolina's 2026 GOP gubernatorial primary was no nail-biter at all." So I suppose we thought it was a nail-biter. Polling suggested the candidates, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett, Attorney General Alan Wilson, businessman Ram Reddy, and U.S. Reps Ralph Norman and Nancy Mace were in a near statistical tie, but the outcome proved otherwise. Yvette, endorsed by President Donald Trump, emerged as the clear frontrunner, with Wilson, the well-known statewide from his dozen-plus years in office, also benefited from the record-setting Republican turnout. Both will face one another in June 2023 in the runoff, competing for more than 40% of Republican voters who choose another candidate on Tuesday. And what is clear that the biggest prize remains the 5 counties of upstate, where Ralph Norman won. So fast forward. What's interesting about this that we'll be watching, and maybe we'll talk about for a couple seconds here, is the vaunted Trump endorsement. The prediction markets are valuing at almost nothing. So the candidate Yvette priced at about 15% chance to win this primary. She has Trump's endorsement. Alan Wilson, not Alan Jackson. Alan Wilson is like the massive favorite to win this race against Trump's endorsement. And I'm just going to ask you, like, Doug, you told me you're not a big South Carolina guy, but does it make you nervous to be looking at that market and bet against Trump's endorsement in the South?
Yeah, it would be. I think the polling suggests that Wilson is going to win, and that's a big reason to discount it. One thing that's been interesting with Trump's endorsements, at least in Kentucky, when Trump's arch nemesis was up, it still took a lot of money of advertising. I mean, huge amounts of money from IPAC and from out-of-state donors to get Trump's arch nemesis to lose in a close election.
Shout out Thomas Massey.
And then in Texas, Texas was kind of maybe perhaps the anomaly where you had a 50-50 election. It went to a second round, which voters maybe weren't super excited about participating in after, it was clear with the 50-50 election that Trump's endorsement was going to kill Cornyn. And then probably just Cornyn supporters had just kind of lost hope after that and didn't turn out. And so it really made it look like Trump's endorsement mattered quite a lot, when in fact, I think in the round, this is kind of a signal that while Trump's endorsement still means a lot, maybe it has actually lost a bit of value, except in some special circumstances.
Yeah. So if you talk to the people who follow South Carolina politics, which I'm told there are a few dozen of those, the conventional wisdom is that the Trump anointed candidate is not going to win this race because the swing voters belong to the opposing constituency. So like the two candidates, all the relevant candidates who lost have endorsed her opponent. So right. I don't know, make with that what you will. Apparently these swing voters are all the people from the Northeast who either retired or bought their first homes in Greenville, South Carolina. And apparently they don't like this Trump endorsed candidate. So we'll take a closer look at that. But it is bottomlessly interesting to understand how our countrymen process their politics.
I think you're right, though, that I would be hesitant to bond against the Trump endorsed candidate, though.
Yeah, never a bond. Yep. All right, Doug, you've begged and pleaded. We are about to cut to Anthony Dabbundo to talk about the World Cup, but you are a former elite soccer player. You're very tall. You've lived in Europe. Like, all these things make you an expert on the sport. I give you the floor to get me excited about this tournament.
All right, let me just pitch one can't miss trade, which is that so the U.S. to win the World Cup. But wait, hold on. There's a catch. On Polymarket and Kalshi, the pricing is different. As of Polymarket and on another website, the pricing is different. And so you can buy the U.S. to win the World Cup at something like 2.2 cents on Polymarket. On another website, you could short Kalshi. The U.S. at something like 3.6 cents. And as a result, you could buy 1,000 shares of no for something like $960, and then you could use the rest of that money to buy like 1,800 shares of yes. And it's only cost you $1,000 total, so you can't lose no matter when the U.S. gets eliminated. But you've got this extra cushion of shares, which I think I'd like the U.S. to get out of their group. I'd like them maybe to make the round of 16, possibly even the quarterfinals, and you could sell this. You could get a free roll, potentially sell these shares later for 4 to 8 cents.
All right, I love it. Yep. And then you want to pick a winner before we call it a day?
I'll go with France, I think. I think the market is probably correct. They might be a little bit richly valued, but I think they're a legit favorite. I think Argentina looked good, but they might be a little too reliant on 39-year-old Lionel Messi.
Got it. All right. So we're selling our cars, kids, and homes to bet on Jon Ossoff. I don't know what the hell's going on in Iran, and no one else does either. And great ARB play, Doug Campbell ARB play on Sam's Army Team USA. You gotta love it. Doug, thanks for joining.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
All right, fam, you're here because everything's tradable, including the World Cup, the real presidential election happening on the planet, the biggest story of the year. And we're going to talk about who's going to win and all that, but we're going to do the eventual thing and also maybe talk about Donald Trump and some of his fingerprints that are on the World Cup. So, joining us to talk about that is a longtime friend of the show, Anthony Dabbundo, who's at The Ringer. Anthony's a soccer columnist for them, and he's also a co-host of the gambling show over there, which you should watch and listen to. And try not to hold it against Anthony, but he's a rabid Philadelphia sports guy, so feature or bug, kind of depends on who you are. And he's also an on-again and off-again prediction market trader, so one of us. Anthony, did I do you justice? Welcome to the show.
You beautifully encapsulated how my brain works, which is just in a variety of different ways. I'm fascinated by so many different things, from, yes, the World Cup, to who's going to win the Senate, to will there be a runoff in some random Georgia election, and whether or not the Phillies can make the playoffs or not. I'm heading to Citizens Bank Park tonight to support the boys. So, yes, always thinking about something, what's going to happen next. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you are a Renaissance man, and I do think I was doing the Philadelphian you justice to say, look, like, you can hate this dude. I feel like being from Philadelphia, you do embrace the hate on some level, and it's just part of who you are.
Yeah, I think you have to be willing to do anything in media. You have to be willing to take criticism and to let the haters kind of wash over you and just not bother you. So, like, yes, I see the Reddit posts, I see the tweets, the mean stuff that people will write about you online. That's all part of the game. Chalk it up to the game.
Yeah. All right. Well, the game today is we're going to take sports, which you're very sharp on, and we're going to take geopolitics, where we can kind of meet in the middle, and we're going to talk about the place where they collide so brightly, which is the World Cup. So, hey, spoiler alert, the World Cup is finally here in the United States. I think you've even been to a game or two. And just like stage setting here, has the World Cup been as terrible as we heard it was going to be? Like, seats too expensive for fans to come to, no one able to get visas because Trump has the border closed. Like, does the World Cup suck like we were told it would?
I think it's the power of soccer, the power of community, the power of really the general welcomingness of the American people that has made this tournament such a rousing success so far. And yes, there are the one-off stories. Everybody kind of has heard the one-off stories about different issues with the tournament. But at the end of the day, this happens every 4 years. I mean, you only have to go back 4 years ago when Qatar hosted the World Cup. People died. Human rights violations and building stadiums to get them ready for that World Cup. Much worse than anything that happened in the build-up to this World Cup. Yes. Is FIFA greedy? Yes. Are there plenty of issues with FIFA? Yes. Were the tickets very expensive and tough to afford for the common man? Yes. But did that stop millions of people from coming from Europe, from other countries, from Asia? I met fans from 4 different continents on Friday outside SoFi before the U.S.'s first game, all to see soccer. And Sepp Blatter, the former president of FIFA, I always thought has said it best. The World Cup isn't really about the soccer. The soccer is the setting for the party, and the party that happens in the host nation every 4 years, for the whole community to come together, all of the heartwarming and kind of like we are the world globalism that has come about as a result of this has been really heartwarming for me to enjoy the scenes on social media and to see it in person as well.
All right. So this is eventual. We're going to talk about the collision of politics, culture, and markets. Trump hasn't made this tournament about himself. And Polymarket has some sort of interesting lines about, like, where Trump and the World Cup will intersect. And so I'll just read some off right now. So one is we've got this bet: will Trump show up at the World Cup final? That's trading at 90%. We've got this other one that's sort of interesting for a president that is like so obsessed with sports and very out there getting to events. How many matches will Donald Trump go to this World Cup? The favorite there, it's actually just one game at 60%, and we can talk about that. And then there's this absolutely hilarious one that like really gets to the president's nature, and that is he going to photobomb the winning team at the trophy ceremony? Like literally, grasp the trophy next to Kristen Pulisic or whoever it is, and that's trading at a smidge over 50. So 3 kind of bets about the tournament, 3 kind of bets about the president's nature, and I'm just kind of curious, of these, like, are there any that you're like, that's actually way undervalued? I think I would actually take the other side of that trade.
I would take the yes, he'll be in the photo. There was a report yesterday from Yahoo that said that he is expected to join the winning team for the trophy lift at MetLife Stadium in the final. He will be at the final. I am certain of it. I am quite surprised he wasn't at the U.S.'s first match.
Yeah.
which was Friday night at SoFi. I really do think it was because he was at the Knicks game Monday and he had his big UFC event on Sunday night in D.C. that they were preparing for. So I think logistics probably were the only reason. So he said Marco
Susie
Rubio.
Wiles dropped the hammer, said you got to eat your vegetables.
You can't do 3 sporting events in 1 week, Mr. President. You are still running the country, at least they say. And so he wasn't there. Marco Rubio was there instead, sat next to the president of FIFA, Gianni Infantino, and the Paraguayan president, whose name I do not know. I'm sorry to any Paraguayan listeners. But they did show them briefly on the screen, and there was a chorus of boos that came from SoFi. I think mostly for Infantino. He's not a very popular figure. He has his own private jet on standby so that he can attend at least one match every single day of the World Cup. Credit to him. He's getting his miles in. He was at the first 2 games in Mexico. He was at the U.S. game. He flew east to be at Brazil and Morocco. So he's been everywhere. Credit to him. But he's getting plenty of boos. As far as Trump goes, though, there is precedent. And this is why the Polymarket thing is interesting. There is precedent for this. Last summer, as a trial run for the World Cup, the U.S. hosted the Club World Cup, which is essentially the World Cup for just club teams. So Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, Man City. Chelsea won it, and Trump was on stage, giving out the trophy and then staying on the stage to the point where the English players were kind of looking at him funny, like, hey, what are you doing up here? What's going on?
Yeah. I think Putin did this too during the... I think Putin frame-mogged the champions as well. It seems like it's only really a logistics concern here. I mean, when has Trump been shy around athletes? I was thinking, like, if you really wanted to take out your pen and paper, though, the line might be kind of overvalued. So, on one hand, Polymarket has Trump showing up at the final at 90%. My understanding is his office has said he's going to be there, so that's like a pretty good indication. But if you're looking at 50% odds that he will frame mog the winning team with, the trophy presentation, I do think like the implied odds there are maybe a little high if we're not saying it's 100% chance that Trump's going to be there. Like, are you feeling henpecked, or are you sticking to this? You really do think that Donald Trump is going to be Donald Trump and he's going to ride out on the Secret Service limo and collect that trophy?
I mean, he's going to hand it out, right? So he's going to want to stay around to be in the photo again. He's just going to lurk and stand there and kind of saunter in the midst, and then we'll see. I mean, I think somebody, and now it's become a bit to an extent where people are going to be trying to get photos of him frame mogging or whatever, being in the frame.
Photo bombing is my generation.
That photo is now part of the story, and that intersects a whole politics angle into what is mostly a sporting event. I mean, let's say France wins the World Cup. I don't think there's going to be some massive geopolitical statement that says to the world. It's just going to be like, yeah, France was the best soccer team at this event. Spain, England, same thing. Maybe England winning for their first time in 60 years would be something crazy. But I think for the most part, it's going to be whatever country that is getting mad because Trump is in the shot and Trump not giving an F. And then that'll kind of just be how this goes in the final. And then, of course, there will be many, many more eyes on the World Cup final than there were on the Club World Cup final, just by nature of the event. So it will inevitably spark people getting annoyed at Trump again, much like Knicks fans got annoyed at him for amping up security at the final game last week, game 3. So yeah. So there is actually something here for like true prediction market nerds, which is there's a whole category of bets that you can find wherever you do your predicting about who Trump will meet with this month and who he'll meet with this year. So sort of like predicting diplomatic relationships, which seems like it has some utility. But I just imagine, like, as the tournament goes deeper, like, you tend to see the heads of state from the teams that are doing well fly in. Macron flying in, Merkel flying in. I think Merkel wound up sending her deputy to one of the tournaments. But like, you could have a situation where like Trump is now rubbing shoulders with like Claudia Sheinbaum or the prime minister of South Korea or president, whatever their office is, which would trigger some like very long shot bets. So there's definitely like a galaxy brain taken here for true prediction market hardos. I am not laying my credibility down on who's going to be in Trump's box at the finals, though. You got to figure out who's going to be in the finals. It's almost a soccer question as much as it is a geopolitics question. I mean, Macron was at the final. Macron was at the final in 2022. We say this as France did just take the lead, so they're at 1-0 on Senegal. We're recording this, but But I think look, Spain over England was my pick to begin the tournament. Now Spain had a tough start, 0-0, but they're two of their best players didn't really play. They came off the bench pretty late, so I'm still sticking by my pick. France is, if you're just going by raw talent, the best team, but we've seen time and time again France underperform their talent in terms of the stylistic stuff. So I'll go Spain over England. Would the King of Spain make an appearance? Probably. I'm not sure. But I feel like
Starmer could be out of a job by the time
Starmer,
that comes.
does he? I think he's still around in July, right?
Yeah, well, we got another segment on this week's show about that. So tune in.
Another snap election, or is he just out?
Holler at your boy Andy Burnham, right? Manchester, represent. We'll see.
So I don't know, but Spain over England was my pick. So.
Well, I'm just Team USA because I don't know what's going on, but we'll fix that by the next time we talk. Last question for you, okay? Let's go big picture here. So I think there's two big social stories to watch this World Cup, and one of them is the big meme, which is the Europeans coming to America and tweeting about how amazing their free refills and air conditioning are, and
Buc-ee's,
obvious,
you name it, fast food, big stadiums, big everything. Yeah,
that's right. Look at these ranch houses that are so much bigger than our cute, quaint, decaying village homes, whatever that meme is. It's clearly a joke, but it's also happening at a time where Europe is kind of in a slump. So there might be an impact, whatever. And then I think the other sort of meme-y social story here is the Midwest has gotten completely cucked in this World Cup. Kansas City is the only city hosting. Mexico and Canada, though, get 5 host cities collectively. So NAFTA has totally put the Midwest in the cuck chair, yet again. So I'm wondering, what are you betting on? What socio-political force are you betting on? Are you betting on the Europeans going back to the continent the way the French soldiers did after the American Revolution and start saying why don't we have nice things? We need to overthrow our governments? Or are you betting on Midwestern populism here, angered by NAFTA?
It's funny, the Midwest, I think the most heartwarming story that's come out of this tournament has been the Lawrence, Kansas and Algeria partnership. Imagine saying that. The whole World Cup is just Mad Libs, but Lawrence hosting the Algerian soccer team. They picked a small college town, Kansas University, and or KU, University of Kansas, and they're out there, and you're seeing all these Midwestern white dudes, for lack of a better term, coming out and saying how happy they are that Algeria picked their town. You got the guy saying rock chalk Algeria. And then now it's game day, right? We're recording this on game day, and the Algerians have completely taken over downtown Kansas City, as well as the Argentinians, and the scenes are amazing. So Chicago didn't want it. So it's kind of their own fault. Chicago declined to bid. They were like, we're good. I don't know. The ghost of Rahm Emanuel was probably involved in that.
Yeah, we got
not
the
a great
Cubs.
look for his incoming presidential run. But they just didn't want it. But I will say, as far as the whole European thing, I do think it's come at a good time for the U.S. in terms of trying to repair its image. Because every time I'm in Europe, all I hear from Europeans is how annoyed they are with us, how all they hear in the news is about how terrible Trump is and how terrible other things are. And whether it's true or not, whatever your politics are, it is good to present our country in a more favorable light. And it can't hurt. Now, I'm not going to get over the skis and project massive change from a World Cup. But I do think it helps project a better image of Americans, not just their leader, because we know politically that the American president is not at all popular in Europe, most of the countries. So I think it presents a better view of Americans beyond their president, and I think that they'll take that home, and maybe it helps the view of America abroad, which only can help in the great war of public relations. I'm not sure it actually matters in terms of moving the needle because, the culture takes decades to change.
Yep.
Europe's not going to become a richer continent just because they saw how rich we are, right? I don't think that's going to happen overnight.
Yeah. I listen, I know that I'm the target audience for this type of viral Twitter post, but I do think that at the very least, there's interesting sociology papers that get written in the next decade or two about what happens when you take tens of thousands of people, you send them to a place that they heard sucked, they find out it's great, you send them back to the place they were from, and one realizes that the other people did some things well and did some things better. Like, this is always an interesting story to follow in human history. And I'll certainly be enjoying my Twitter posts of, German and Japanese soccer fans posting about hot dogs and how great they are. And I will.
Everything is bigger in Texas, Alex. Everything is bigger in Texas.
That's true.
That's what
Let's
the Japanese
go Japan.
keep telling us. Yeah.
All right. So, Dabbundo, I've got you marked down for Trump showing up at the World Cup final. I've got you marked down for him photobombing the stage at the trophy presentation. And you know
he
what?
Can't help himself, Alex.
He can't. Neither can I. You know what? I can't help myself either. Who says he doesn't go to another match? There's like more than a month of time left to play. Like, I don't know. Someone go scratch your head and look at the underdog on
it gets
him
weird,
showing up.
though, because if the U.S. goes on a run, they don't play on the East Coast really at all. Most of their games are going to be L.A., Seattle, San Francisco. They might.
I
get
love
to
that
Arlington.
you've thought about this. I love that you've thought about this.
I've war-gamed it out. They might go to Arlington. Could get to Atlanta. So they're not going to be in New York.
It was a campaign stop in Atlanta.
True. They're not in New York. So the question is, like, would he go on the road? And if the U.S. is on a big run, clearly he didn't care with the Knicks. But like, Trump showing up to a U.S. game for the first time in like a quarterfinal or a round of 16 where they're on a hot run and they're doing well. There's a lot of risk there. Not that he cares, but I think it would piss a lot of people off.
Sam's army might need its general.
He did call them before the first game. He wasn't there, but he did call. Just so everybody's know, And Pulisic has done the dance. I don't know if you've seen it, but Pulisic has done the dance.
Like the YMCA?
Yeah, he did after scoring a goal back this was last summer. But
all right. Well, it sounds like we're going to need to have you back. Anthony Dabbundo from The Ringer. Where can people find your work?
Yeah, you can find my work if you go on our creator page on theringer.com. I'll be writing about the U.S. men's national team, writing thoughts and analysis on all the World Cup stuff, doing betting stuff as well on the Ringer Gambling Show throughout the tournament. Some Starting 11, my new video series on the World Cup as well. New episodes 3 times a week. So excited for this tournament, enjoying every second of it, and can't wait to see who's going to win it.
Congratulations, and we'll be looking forward to all of that from you soon.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to skip across the pond to the UK, where our London bureau correspondent, William Kajani, is joining us. For those of you who haven't met him yet, KJ's a journalist and a betting industry pro. He covers politics, but he also covers horse racing. So just going to say, ideal guy. So let's check out what he's got on the big election in the UK this week. KJ, welcome back to the show. You look like you're on a bit of a side quest right now. What's going on in your world?
I have been at the garden party for Royal Ascot Day 2, and I'm trying to get tickets for Day 3. So, yeah, a very interesting side quest. It's been lovely here. If anybody is watching and they're into their horse racing, I do encourage them to come. It's a wonderful time.
I love it. I'm going to get some white gloves and Pim's cups.
Yes.
I see you're running out of sunlight there. The sun never sets on the British Empire unless you're at Royal Ascot. But help us Yanks get ourselves around this. There's this tiny election that's happening in Greater Manchester. I think Makerfield is the name of the area. And it is sort of the dominoes falling to get rid of Keir Starmer, your current prime minister. Can you just tell our audience who the hell Andy Burnham is and what the hell some random tiny election has to do with knocking over an entire government? And then we can kind of get into the odds and such.
Sure. Andy Burnham is the mayor of Greater Manchester. He is one of the most popular politicians in Britain today. Now, you might not think it takes much doing, but in an area where many politicians are extremely unpopular, he's got decent approval ratings, and that counts for a lot. And the Labour Party, some people in it think that he might be the person to get them back to where they were, because they won a big majority in the last general election. Keir Starmer, unfortunately, has had a horrible time. He's really, really underwater with disapprovals right now. Andy Burnham isn't. If he wins his by-election in Makerfield, that's the constituency, it's actually not a place, he can get back into Westminster. Then he can be elected as Labour leader and Prime Minister by fellow MPs. It's almost like if you had an American who could raise a challenge to a party leader from Republicans or Democrats, they get a special election, somebody stands down, so they can run for the Senate or whatever, and if it gets to the Senate, they would be sure to get those nominations.
Got it.
Something like that.
Got it. So for Labour to get rid of Keir Starmer, they need a new face. And the new face that people want is Andy Burnham, who is standing for election on Thursday. But he's got to win this race. to get there. That is pulling Excalibur out of the stone. You gotta win this
Yeah.
race. Okay.
Pretty much. Although the only thing I would say is, even if he doesn't win, there'll be a challenge to Keir Starmer's leadership, I'd have thought. But Andy Burnham is seen as the most likely winner. There's been some polling. It has him as the Labour leader, and the party's fortunes look better. So I think a lot of people think it's Burnham or bust.
I got it. Well, so another thing that sort of has him as a favorite is Polymarket, pretty much prediction markets, Kalshi, everywhere you look. And so I want to I'm gonna make you cross our close personal friend Paul Krishnamurti, who wrote a piece for us here at Eventual.
God bless him. We love him.
We do love him. Bless him. And Paul said, look, Andy Burnham is the favorite to win this race. Don't mistake me. But the polling does not justify his price. So the market's priced him at around 80 cents, 80% favorite to win this election. And what I wanted to ask you is so that's Madi talking about polls, Madi, a bookmaker. But you're a journalist, you're a reporter at heart, you're a vibes guy. Can the vibes in Makerfield support 80-cent prices for Andy Burnham to win election?
No, they don't. The vibes say that he's ahead. I think he's definitely ahead. But the polls really, first, the polls don't support it either. The polls say that Andy Burnham's ahead, but within the margin of error. With any poll, there's a margin of error. And I'm not going to get too into the weeds of polling, but you need to apply that if you're going to place serious money on it. And for constituency polls in England, which is, to put it to scale, as I'm sure many people are fond of saying, you can fit it into Texas in some ways,
Yeah.
We're talking about really small sample sizes here.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it's a problem.
Something like that?
No,
100,000 voters?
No, 75,000 voters in Makerfield, around about.
That's nothing.
Yeah, and then the sample poll is 521 people. Now, that's not to say it's wrong. The sampling methods will be correct, but there's always a higher margin of error, and you have to factor in the local effects. You have to factor in undecideds, all of that. So Andy Burnham's ahead for sure, but it's not done. This is an area that's very strong for reform. That's the main party with Rob Kenyon. If you've been looking at Polymarket, you'll see either reform.
These are conservatives, right? This is the other side of the equation. We've got the conservative parties
right
here.
Yeah, they're right wing. The actual Conservatives, by the way, are a party in Great Britain, and they are nowhere at the moment, at least in this by-election. There are two parties on the right. One is called Reform UK. They've won a lot of seats, a lot of mayoralties over the past 2 years. The other is called Restore Britain. We'll get into that in a little bit more, but Restore Britain are on the right of Reform UK, and they are threatening to take votes away from Reform UK, and that could possibly cost them this by-election. So there's been a lot of heated debate on the right in the UK.
So here's how I understand it. How I understand it is that if all of these splintered conservative, not the conservative party, but right-wing parties got their act together and had a tea party and sat down and gave each other a hug, they would have the votes to defeat Andy Burnham. But the market does not believe that. The market believes that at the end of the day, the conservatives will stay divided and Andy Burnham will walk to election. Okay, so last question. I would like to put you at odds with Paul Krishnamurti again. And I don't know about you, but yeah.
Dangerous place to be, but go on.
Yeah. You don't want to be on the opposite side of a trade for Madi. Madi wrote for us that Burnham is justifiably the favorite, but the markets have this idea that Burnham will win by a meaningful amount, more than 3%. Madi seems unpersuaded by that. He seems sort of against the market's very, very rosy view of this outcome, even though he believes he's the favorite. So I guess what I'm saying is, are you betting with the market that that Burnham has a sort of 70%-ish chance of winning by more than 3%? Or do you think Madi's onto something that this actually could wind up being a very close race when all the votes are counted?
No, I'm in agreement. I think it will be a close race at the end of the day. I'm betting tighter. I'm thinking that this is maybe 2 to 3% Burnham's lead. I think it is definitely him in front, but I wouldn't be shocked if he got beaten. I think that it's entirely possible this goes down to the absolute wire. So no, I don't think it's as rosy as Kelsey or Polymarket, or hell, even the British books. I don't think it's as rosy as the British books put it. No.
Well,
I think it's
to hell
closer.
with them. To hell with them. All right, KJ, I know you're a man on a mission right now, and I don't want to keep you from your mission.
Not at
So
all.
good luck to you getting those Royal Ascot tickets. Good luck to you
Thank
getting
you.
some PIMS cups. Thank you for joining
Plenty
the
of those
show.
around here.
Yeah. Stay away. It would be very good. All right, man. Well, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Nothing else people have ever
All
known.
right, that's our show. This episode of Eventual was produced by Alex Asdorian. Thank you to Matt Talese for all your help with design. You can follow Eventual anywhere on social media. We are at Eventual News. Please remember to like and subscribe wherever you are consuming this show. It makes a huge difference for us growing our following and making this sustainable. Lastly, sign up for our newsletter. Just visit our website at eventual.news. I'm Alex Keeney, host and founder. See you next time.